One of the things we try to do in the class is find new and interesting people to bring in. I first met Alissa Knight on an online innovation safari, and she was listed as this kid at 17 who was hacking into banks and other places. She got arrested. I may have misspoken. I don't know that she actually went to jail, but I do believe she was arrested for it. And she was just cool and exciting. For me, one of the things I'm interested in learning from Alissa today is the mindset of a hacker. Since then, she's done a lot of hacking. She's done a security company, and she's moved on to do a lot of other things. So she's got a really wide, diverse background. And I think she's going to give us some perspective on how she's approached life in a very different way, in an amazing way, and done some really interesting things. And so with that, I'd like to give a big round of applause to welcome Alissa Knight.
Good morning. Thank you for coming. I'm sure you're all very busy. I'm Alissa Knight. Thank you very much. Have a great day. That was my presentation. I'm kidding. So, when I was little, I wanted to climb. I wanted to climb everything. If there was something that I could climb, I wanted to climb it, and I climbed it. My parents would always tell me no. You can't do that. You're going to hurt yourself. And I never understood why I couldn't do things. Why can't I? Because you said so? Well, I'm going to do it, and we'll see if you're right. It was a constant game of my parents telling me no and me asking why. So, you're all too young to remember these, but CRT televisions, they were really big and heavy. And I would climb up the entertainment system and jump off of it. And I never got hurt, so I never understood why my parents never wanted me to climb on things. And so, fast forward 4 years. When I was 6, I wanted to climb trees. Big trees. So when I first started climbing trees, my first tree, I remember as if it was yesterday, it was like twice my size. I was a little 6-year-old, so, it was like twice my height. And I climbed up that tree. Nothing happened, okay? So some time went on, and I got really experienced at climbing trees and really good at climbing trees. I would scale up the branches, and for those of you who are from the Pacific Northwest, I was born and raised in Seattle, Washington. And in Seattle, we have these evergreen trees. And they can get quite large. They can get quite tall. So when I was 6, there was a tree outside my parents' house that was taller than our house itself. It was a single-story house. And so this tree must have been around 50 feet. Right? It's pretty high for a 6-year-old. And my parents didn't know. They were inside doing whatever parents do. And I started to climb this tree. And I remember climbing all the way up and being so proud of myself. I was climbing branch by branch by branch, and I was so high I could see all of Seattle, it felt like. And I kept climbing, and I kept climbing. And then I fell out of it. I fell out of this 50-foot tree, and I was so high up, and I was thinking, as I was falling down, man, my mom's gonna be mad at me. And I kept falling, and I broke every branch as I was falling down, and I grabbed on branches as I was falling, and I was thinking, man, this hurts. This hurts a lot. And so I kept falling, and I kept falling, and it felt like I was falling forever. And I finally hit the ground, right? And I was thinking, oh my God, I gotta pretend. It was like in the Christmas story, right? Pretend that I didn't just shoot my eye out. I just got back up, and I hope nothing was broken, and I just kept going. I went inside, and I pretended nothing was wrong. I was scraped up. I had cuts and bruises, and I didn't break anything, and I was okay. I didn't die, right? But for the first time in my life, at 6 years old, I truly felt alive. I felt like I could do anything. Here I was scaling this 50-foot high tree, and I could do it all, and I survived. And that means I'm invincible. I could do anything, especially if people told me no. I could break all the rules, and I would be okay. That was my takeaway from this. But something happened. Something broke that day that weren't bones. I broke my fear. I got up that day when I was 6 with no broken bones, but I didn't realize at that time, subconsciously, I now had a broken fear bone, and I was no longer afraid of doing anything. And at 6 years old, that's pretty wild to think about, right? Not only that, but pretty dangerous, right? So all of a sudden, I wasn't afraid of doing anything, and I could leap tall buildings. And there would be no repercussions, no matter what the rules were, especially if I was told no. Those rules didn't apply to me. Fast forward 7 years. For those of you who remember payphones, I got involved in what was called Internet Relay Chat. For those of you who remember AOL Chat, Internet Relay Chat was this massive network of online chat rooms where you could meet people, meet predators, but meet people. And I got introduced to my first hacker. And I was 13 years old. And remember, now I have no fear. And I'm invincible at this point, right? Nothing could hurt me, nothing could touch me, and no rules applied to me. So I decided I'm going to be a hacker. So at 13 years old, I started to hack. And at the time, for those of you who are familiar with the term phone phreaking, it's a concept of hacking phone networks. So I would go to Radio Shack when they existed, and I would build these things called banana boxes, red boxes, blue boxes, black boxes. What they would do, for $5 of parts at Radio Shack, I would build these little boxes that would let me make free international phone calls. And then I got into what was called carding, where I would generate my own credit card numbers. And I would generate my own phone numbers, my own phone cards. And man, I was having a good time. I was like, I could hack anything. Oh my God, there was this heroin. Not that I've ever done heroin, but I had this heroin running through me, and I was addicted. I was addicted. It was an addiction. It was my crack. It was my meth, and I wanted more of it. And I could imagine at 13 years old, you could hack anything. Like, you're God. And I was like, oh my God, I got to do something bigger and better. I got to do something more. So I did. This is the chapter of my life, autobiography coming soon. This is a chapter of my life I like to call Dancing with the Devil. This was where I decided that fast food restaurant chains just weren't enough for me. I was way too superior of an intellect for fast food chains. I needed to move on to the government because they're stashing aliens in Area 51, and I needed to know. So that's what I did, and don't do this, but I decided it would be a good idea to use the computers at school to do this. Because, there's no attribution if I hack from school. So that's what I did. I would come in before everyone would show up at school, and I would stay until everyone left, and I would use the network, the computer lab, to hack the government. And of course they caught me. I remember I was going in school one day, It just felt weird because, I hadn't had my head flushed in the toilet yet, and I hadn't been bullied. It was calm, like this room, quiet. And it was weird because, people were all kind of just staring at me, kind of like what you guys are doing right now. And I walked in and I was thinking to myself, something's off. Something's off. I wasn't very popular in school, as I'm sure you can imagine. I was bullied a lot. But all I remember was stopping dead in my tracks because there were federal agents running towards me. And I was like, oh my God. And everyone was like all crowding around as if they were in on it and they were watching, and people had their cameras out, their phones out. I think this was flip phone time, so they had their flip phones out. And yeah, I'm that old, I'm 44. I'm not old, this is purple hair color. So everyone was taking shots and I was being arrested. And I started crying. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I did it all. And they took me into the back and they interrogated me. That was scary, right? I'd only seen this on television. This was spooky, right? And he was mean, like he was mad and mean. And you have to understand, this was the 1990s. So like, it was the whole Computer Fraud and Abuse Act thing. There wasn't ransomware like there is today. There weren't ransomware crime syndicates. You were just hacking for notoriety. You defaced websites. Rafa was here. My hacker alias was Loki, God of Mischief. And I was scared, and I realized that my dad was going to kill me. Now you have to understand, my father was a Bama boy. All right, he was Southerner from back yonder, and yeah, South, right there, all right. So he grew up in Mobile, so his form of punishment was a belt. My dad looked at me and he chuckled. He looked at me, he's like, in the car ride home, started laughing, and I said, what's so funny? He's kind of serial killer-y. It was like kind of creepy. And he said, some parents pick their kids up from prison because of drugs or killing someone or whatever. I picked you up because you hacked a government network. That's kind of cool. So I was like, oh man, maybe I'm not dead after all. So it was a big deal. And now the one thing was I got let off on a technicality. You guys all have to remember, guys and girls, you have to remember that I was 2 weeks from graduation. I was a few weeks from turning 18. They interrogated a minor without my parents there. District attorney didn't want to touch that. So I got off on a technicality. And I looked at this as an opportunity to reinvent myself. The dude on the left was me, and that's me on the right. So from a very young age, I had realized that something was wrong with my body and couldn't understand why other girls' bodies were different than mine. And at the time, there was no Google. The idea or term of gender dysphoria didn't really exist, and I just figured I was gay, but I liked women, so it didn't make sense. So time went on, and I transitioned in 2008 at the age of 27 into a woman. And so, here I was breaking the rules again, right? The gender norms, the societal rules of what we're supposed to be, the boxes that we're supposed to be in. And I didn't want to conform as a hacker. I didn't want to be the skin that I was born in. And so here I was with my second chance, and 9/11 happened, and planes got flown into the Trade Center, and Al-Qaeda had threatened cyber attacks against the United States. They ran an intranet called Obelisk. A lot of people think terrorists are just cave dwellers who aren't sophisticated. Oh, they're sophisticated. As a matter of fact, they were using child pornography to communicate with each other through what's called steganography. And so Al-Qaeda had this internet called Obelisk. And I went on Fox News Live to talk about it. And almost immediately getting out of the Fox News offices, there was a van waiting for me. And I got picked up by the US intelligence community. And then I went to close quarter combat training. I was the first woman to go to their survival, evasion, resistance, and escape, or SEER training. Trained as a close quarter combat CQC, CQB sniper, and traded in my keyboard as a hacker for an M4 and an AR-15. My area of responsibility was the Middle East and Africa. I supported the Counterinsurgency Advisory and Assistance Teams, or CATS, in Afghanistan, and the counter-IED contract in Iraq. And I couldn't get away from that feeling of just continuing to want to hack and break things and tear things apart, because I believed that could be made by humans, could be broken by humans. It didn't matter. Until computers could make themselves, until software could write itself, ChatGPT, it was always going to be flawed, because humans are flawed. We're flawed. And we will forever be flawed, and we will always make mistakes. So I had a hunger and desire to chase that. So I started my first company when I was 17 years old, and I sold it to a public company when I was 20 for about $3.5 million, a small amount. And then I started my second startup when I was 24, and I sold it to a public company when I was 27 for about $5 million. And I'm in the middle of a $10 million exit on my current one. So I was what's called a serial entrepreneur. I wanted to continuously build and sell companies. I wanted to build things and sell it off. Very Pretty Woman and Richard Gere and Pretty Woman, right? But I wanted to build and sell. And so in 2008, I retired and became a fashion photographer. That's a long story, probably for another day. But I retired, and this is when things started to change, because I decided in my retirement that I was not done hacking and I was not done breaking things. So that's what I did. I got brought out to Germany by a small startup company called Mercedes-Benz to hack into connected cars. That was a joke, you can laugh. To hack connected cars. And I figured out how to take remote control of any vehicle on the road as long as you knew the VIN number. And I published a book on it called Hacking Connected Cars. You can go buy a copy on Amazon, I'll sign it. So I became this first sort of connected car hacker, but it actually ended up earning me a contract with them, and I moved to Germany, Stuttgart, and I started hacking cars. See, here's the thing. People think that just because they're not driving around in a Tesla, they're impervious to being hacked. That's not true. Any car made after 2001 is connected over what's called OTA, or over-the-air updates, over APIs. Yes, you're late. We see you. No, I'm just kidding. Oh my God, she's gonna cry. She's gonna cry. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We love you. We all love you. We all love you. Sorry. You are so red. I'm so sorry. I'll give you a free copy of my book. Okay, so let's do it. Next person who walks in late, let's roast them. So I ended up presenting to like the FBI, CIA, DOD, everyone explaining how I did this and how it was possible. And it took them a while. I think they finally fixed some of it. And this was the beginning of my legacy that I was leaving, right? So after this, fast healthcare interoperability resources, or FHIR. Let's say you break your arm. You look like a jock, a football player. You break your arm jogging, whatever jocks do. You were jogging. And he was jogging, and he goes to a hospital, and he gets his arm fixed. And then he's like, well, that hospital sucks because they don't give out free candy. I want candy. So he goes to a different hospital, and he gets himself worked on. He needs to fix his jockey arm. And the hospital doesn't know who he is. What's your name? Ryan? Okay, Ryan. You look like you're Ryan. Ryan is like at this new hospital, and they're like, who the hell are you? What's wrong with you? You got COVID? What's the issue? He's like, no, I have a broken arm. Don't you have my records? Well, the hospital's like, no. What do you think this is, 2023? So, you know, the hospital has to get his records. So there's this problem in the United States, as a matter of fact, globally, that hospitals don't share information. It's the weirdest thing. Have you ever been asked by your doctor? It's like 2023, your doctor's like, can you have your other doctor fax your records? Fax. It's still a thing. So the Congress, the government in their infinite wisdom, said, we need to fix this. We're going to require all healthcare providers and payers to share your healthcare info and make it available through APIs, because we're the government, we can make you do it, and if you don't do it, we're going to penalize you by fining you and applying all kinds of bad stuff. And so payers and providers need to do this through FHIR APIs. And I was thinking as a hacker, man, this doesn't sound secure. This doesn't sound good, because the government, as we all know, is famous for their security. And I was like, well, let's see if we can hack this. So I ended up hacking it, got access to hundreds of millions of patient records of US citizens, and got a contact from the Office of Inspector General and Congress, Health and Human Services, saying, you broke our stuff and we want to know why. And we want to know how you did it. And then I saw two congressmen on Capitol Hill hold up my report called Playing with Fire. You can all download it for free. It's pretty interesting. That talks about how all of our healthcare data is available to be stolen. And there really is no such thing as privacy anymore. That's another debate. So I was now affecting policy, public policy. And so these congressmen I'm so sorry, I'm moving a lot, so the cameraman's ready to kill me. But the Congress was like, look, we're gonna do stuff with the laws because of your thing. We don't understand it, but we're gonna do stuff with laws, and that's pretty cool, because we're gonna say it was you. And so that was what I did. And then I decided that, well, I'm just not done yet. You know, I'm 43, 44, turning 44, and I'm not ready to retire, so let's go after the banking system. And then I was like, well, you know, what's this whole crypto thing? You know, Bitcoin and all that. I need some Bitcoin. I need me some Bitcoin. Ryan, give me some Bitcoin. And I was like, let's go after the Bitcoin. So I decided to target our financial infrastructure. Because here's the thing, folks. Banks actually don't keep money anymore, by the way. It's all ones and zeros. So I decided to task myself with a challenge. Instead of climbing a tree, I was going to hack 55 banks in less than a week. And I decided that that was something I would do. And many, many shots of tequila later. This better be a bathroom break, mister. Mike, you look like a Mike. Mike, isn't it? Okay, so, no one's free. So, what was I talking about? What was I saying? Okay, banks, crypto, right. So I'm like, I need me some crypto. So I started targeting 55 banks, including cryptocurrency exchanges, and was able to relieve these banks and these cryptocurrency exchanges, one of whom happens to not exist today, starts with an F, ends with TX. But I promise not to say their name, just that they start with an F and ends in TX. And a lot of these other Binance and all these other ones that I found holes in, I was able to relieve account holders of their Bitcoin. Because you have to remember, we're not really exchanging paper money anymore. It's all Apple credit cards, you know, Apple Pay, Google Pay. It's all Bitcoin. It's all ones and zeros. So you could actually hack. I wanted to prove in my new series, Princess of Thieves, new book coming out, by the way, Princess of Thieves, that I could actually rob banks from my living room in my pajamas. And I did this for a week, and I successfully robbed 55 banks. And so they were, of course, working with me on it. It's not like I'm up here admitting to anything illegal, or am I? But I was ready to now retire. And so I did. So after 2 decades, 23 years, I was ready to become a Hollywood producer. I know, you're probably thinking, what? 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 Like, okay, tree climber to serial entrepreneur to hacker to producer? Yeah, so my wife and I, Mel, who's here, hi honey, we own a group of companies called Knight Group, and it owns a coffee company. Yes, we own a coffee company, roastery and coffee bean reserves in Seattle. Go pick up your bag on Amazon, Knight Coffee. And we also own Knight Studios, which is a film, movie, and TV production company. We've produced 5 TV series so far. I'm the director, and we also own an events company where we put on annual conferences. We also own a digital marketing agency. So, you know, I kind of have to be, I'm the ADD poster child. I kind of have to be doing a lot of stuff. And that comes full circle with don't be afraid to climb trees. My whole life has really been affected, and really the pivotal point, right, was falling out of this tree for me. It was realizing that, you know, innovation, whether it was a new product I was developing at Applied Watch and NetStream, or a TV series, all of that had shelf lives. All of that has a shelf life, right? Where it started was with me. And where it started, as far as whether or not I did those things, was fear. And for me, I left my fear on the ground that day, and it shaped the rest of my life. Now, please don't go on Twitter or X, and say that Alissa told me to jump out of a tree. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the difference between actually failing and succeeding in life is not whether or not you fall, it's whether or not you get back up. That day I got back up. And I'm here to tell you that the only reason I've been able to start and sell 3 companies, hack 55 banks in a week, and do the things that I've done is simply just because I wasn't afraid to do it. And to me, at the end of the day, that's all life really is about, right? That's all life is. There's no secret sauce to life. There's no secret source code. Life to me is nothing more than decisions and outcomes. Do you cheat on your boyfriend? Do you cheat on your girlfriend? Do you hack into this government network? Do you hack into McDonald's? Do you start this company? Do you start this product? It's all decisions. And the outcomes from those decisions that shape me. This is not an evil QR code, I promise. This is actually my cell phone, so if you would like to stalk me, you can. Take a picture of this QR code. It will take you to my mobile phone number, as well as my email addresses and social media. You survived my presentation. Thank you so much. It was a true honor to be here. I'm a high school dropout, so my mom never got to see me graduate high school, so this is a big treat for her to see me actually teaching at Harvard. And I'll quote my favorite movie, once you teach at Harvard, it's all downhill from here, boy. Thank you very much.